everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2, quick match gameplay. This time around we are playing as the Greenskins against the forces of Arrer on the map Wyvern Lake. And this is a matchup that I think has actually changed quite a bit, or definitely seen some major maybe, I don't even know if difficulties, but changes implemented for both sides. Greenskins now have to face, previously I thought this was actually a matchup that favored the Greenskins a decent amount in some ways. However, the implementation of Sisters of Avalorn, some of the High Elf Regiments of Renown, has made this shift a little bit. It's made it a bit more of a difficult situation for the Greenskins. Sisters of Avalorn can pound Black Orcs into pulp, which previously the High Elves, Black Orcs could basically just shrug off High Elf fire. The High Elves also did get access to Shadow Warriors and Shadow Walkers, so those guys could potentially just chip away at your squishy troops from the flanks. And honestly, Greenskins struggle a little bit to shut down flankers, especially flankers that can defend themselves against their light calf. So it's something that could be a bit of a problem for me. And also the fact that in the case of Avalorn, they get tree units, which are, especially Dryads, actually trade pretty well with Savage Orcs. So it's something that previously Savage Orcs could just roll over a High Elf line. It does make life a little more difficult. However, the High Elves now have to contend with the fact that WoW is global, and I've intended to make the full use of that in this battle. Now, in this composition, you can see the nothing too fancy from the Greenskin side, I guess. Well, it's we've changed some stuff up. I did bring Grimgor. I think Grimgor's been made a lot more viable by the fact that WoW is now global, because Grimgor, of course, is a lord who's going to be in a fight. He's going to be in the melee. He's going to be constantly recharging the ability on WoW, which is 90 seconds, and only recharges if you're engaged in a melee, but which is difficult if you're Wurtzag or Azag, because oftentimes you're not fighting, or you're not fighting for protracted periods. You just get a charge in, run away. But with Grimgor, where you're constantly fighting, this is an incredibly potent spell, I think, and I think this is really meant to sync with Grimgor, perhaps Skarsnik. It does have Standing Ground, Foeseeker, and Gitsnik, so just a monstrous lord in general, and really Grimgor can be an absolute beast who really can take entire infantry regiments if you support him properly. Alongside him, we do have a Night Goblin Shaman coming in with Itchy Nuisance, Sneaky Stabbin', Sneaky Stealin', and Wand of Jet. Front line of 3 Black Orcs, 2 Savage Orc Big Guns on the flank to provide some support against enemy large units, and deal with what I assumed would be spears on the periphery. As it turns out, I was very wrong. 2 Nasty Skulkers to provide additional AP flanking support as well as coverage against Cav. Broken Dust Mob to provide coverage against Cav. 2 Savage Orc Airboys to chip away at enemy heavy infantry, to shoot down enemy shooting, to just be a harassment tool. They're honestly pretty solid, and they have Frenzy. They're very mobile for archers at 37 speed. They have Frenzy. They have 30% miss, 25% physical resist. So they're just all around decent. They've got 6 AP, I think, so not a bad unit. Then I do have 4 units of Goblin Wolf Riders, and you might be wondering why, especially because the Sisters of Avalorn and Shadow Warriors will trash them. It's just to catch those units. I know Goblin Wolf Riders won't beat them, but I need, if I figure my opponent, there's a good chance he's going to bring a bunch of Sisters of Avalorn. I need something to shut him down to buy me time. If I can throw 4 Goblin Wolf Riders at him, just to tie down, say, 2 or 3 units of Sisters, just to get Black Orcs in, pound the front line, and get through, then we are set. Regardless, you can see my opponent completely caught me with my pants down here. He didn't bring any Dryads or any Forest units, which I kind of expected with the choice of Avalorn. He didn't bring any Sisters of Avalorn. His front line is composed entirely of elite infantry. You can see Keepers of the Flame, White Lines of Crace, the Pure Main Company, Phoenix Guard, some normal white lines, as well as the Signs of Mathlin, so a very elite front line. All these units are very expensive, and all of them, or most of them, can give Black Orcs a run for their money. I actually think some might even be able to beat it. Now here you can see my opponent is doing something rather clever, and this is a pretty brutal thing High Elves can do to the Greenskins. You hit them with Arcane Unforging. Arcane Unforging sets cooldown back 30 seconds. On WoW, that means and with Overcast 45 seconds. With WoW, this means WoW is not castable until you get into the fight. This is an absolutely brutal effect. So I see it coming. I see the cast, and I'm like, it's Arcane Unforging. And I cast WoW before that can happen. And you can see WoW's already cast. You can see that's why we've got WoW going off here. It's going to give me a little bit of boost of speed, but it doesn't mean I've casted it prematurely. And we are just going to push through and go in as fast as we can. Over here you can see on the we don't have the width to really take on my opponent. He does have 2 units of Dragon Prince on the flanks. He's got the Fireborn on one end. He's got normal Dragon Prince on the other. We're closing the gap incredibly quickly, but Grimgor is getting torn apart. Unfortunately, I don't have Gitsnik available either. But we do get an Itchy Nuisance off. It's going to dumpster these white lines. You can see the Arrer boys now firing away, chipping away at the heaps of the flame, really helping soften them up a little bit. But now my opponent with these Dragon Princes pushing through, so we start firing. The nasty Skulkers coming in, trying to get a charge on the flank, but we don't get a smoke bomb in. My opponent dropping a heal here to keep the Pure Main Company in the fight, especially with Foss protection. Grimgor doing his very best in there, but not really able to break through these guys. These guys are just so tanky with all these support and a rear charge just coming in from the Dragon Princes, so it's brutal stuff. Grimgor getting whittled down. We do get, however, a smoke bomb on the Dragon Princes, which is going to slow them down, making it incredibly difficult for them to escape, especially as the Wolf Riders and another unit of Nasty Skulkers are now charging in. You can see these Black Orcs, they're just buckling against the Signs of Mathlin, no less. Not an impressive fight there, but they're falling apart, and you can see, though, we do catch the Dragon Princes. They're getting torn apart, so a big win for me. Earthblood does go down, but it's not going to compensate for how much HP they're losing. So it's a very atrocious fight on the flanks. The Keepers of the Flame, obviously, every time they die, they explode and do damage to that unit. This unit of White Lions is completely buckled. They got rear charged by Wolf Riders. They're getting crumped by Black Orcs. This is basically the most conventional fight you usually see, and of course, they lose that horribly. The Dragon Princes are routed. They get slaughtered and routed. You can see the Nasty Skulkers coming in here. Me hitting Ishi Nuisance, trying to bring the Fireborn low. The Fireborn, of course, trading incredibly well with the Broken Tusk Mob, despite sneaky stabbing coming through. Foss protection coming in on these guys, which will do actually something for them against the Arrer boys. But another smoke bomb comes through, and the Phoenix and the Nasty Skulkers here with their prison shanks are going to try to bring these filthy Dragon Princes down. And you can see Nasty Skulkers taking immense losses, but they can do damage. They can definitely hurt these Dragon Princes. Nasty Skulkers are one of the most powerful units in the game for their cost, in my humble opinion. See there, they're doing a monstrous job here against the Fireborn. They're trapped in there with Smoke Bomb. They can't flee, and another wall does go off, which is going to be a huge buff for me. It's going to allow my troops to just stay in the fight and keep beating these guys down, keep beating these filthy elves into the muck. Anytime White Lion's shattered, you can see I do wrap around into the White Main Company. You can see Grimgor in there with Wah Proc, the Shaman in there providing buffs. Able to chew, or not the White Main, the Pure Main Company, but able to chew through them pretty effectively, getting rear charged by Phoenix Barb, but it's okay. So things are going, this battle is very all over the place. White Lions here fighting against Savage Orc Big Guns. Savage Orcs do seem to be winning, though. Actually, I was about to say not by much, but pretty decisively. But my opponent is actually definitely coming into the lead. You can see the balance of power shifting into my opponent's lead. This center here is more red than not anything else. You can see I forgot about these Black Orcs, who are fairly healthy. You can see these Phoenix Guard here, still very, very healthy. So this is a very grim situation for me. Grimgor beat to pulp. Broken Tusk Mob in terrible shape. Another Star of Avalorn going down. The Gabo Shaman surrounded, getting beaten down. Savage Orcs in terrible shape. There's really very little good to be said here. The Arrer boys are getting engaged on by Phoenix Guard. So we are going to be doing a little bit of a switcheroo here. I do pull the Savage Orcs away. They're faster than Phoenix Guard, which is a huge boon. And we're going to throw the Black Orcs into the fight. And if they can tie down the Phoenix Guard, the Savage Orc Arrer boys can then whittle them down, is my hope, and buy me some time. You can see this. In the meantime, though, one of the big benefits of playing with so many troops, and this is where the Goblins start coming into play, they're able to hound these Dragon Princes off the field. You can see this was a pretty healthy unit originally. They still have over 10 models. I'm trying. It's a little difficult to. It's 13 models. 13 models of Dragon Princes that are being chased off by a unit of 300-point Goblin Wolf Riders. So this was a big win for me. And you can see as other units start getting routed off, even though the Broken Tusk Mob here getting routed off, you can see I'm going to be able to start chasing these troops off the field and getting rid of them. Whereas the High Elves can't do that. Now, Black Orcs here trading with Phoenix Guard, they're not going to win when they're this badly beaten down, but with the Arrow Fire, they'll do okay. Nasty Skulkers here pushing into the fray, just trying to buy me some time. I want the Signs of Mathlin gone if possible. Grimgor is at this point about to die. There's nothing I can do to defend him. The Skulkers here actually rout a bunch of cowardly goblins. What can you do? But Grimgor is getting routed off, and he actually gets killed by Lariel. So some epic humiliation for Grimgor. You can see here getting chased by the eagle, and he's actually able to juke a few shots surprisingly. But finally he does go down. So you can see the biggest, the baddest gets wrecked by a patsy knife here with long hair. But what can you do? At this point, though, the balance of power is decisively out of my favor. You can see we managed to wipe out the Pure Main Company almost. Signs of Mathlin aren't that relevant. But Keepers of the Flame still incredibly healthy. Phoenix Guard, thanks to Arrow Fire, are whittled down. But my opponent has a huge, monstrous core of troops. He still has the Source of Fear with Lariel, which is relevant against everything that's not the Black Orcs. And we are in a very, very grim situation, folks. Like, this balance of power is, at this point, the red is even reaching well past the midway point. It's probably at 60% in my opponent's favor. You can see these Black Orcs holding their own, doing their very best here against the Pure Main Company, but just not doing well enough. They're 25 models, 1400 HP, so they're holding okay. The Signs of Mathlin are going to probably get beaten eventually, but it's going to be very atrocious, and I just don't really have that many tools left on field. Some Black Orcs are rallying. You can see the Arrer boys here just standing their own. Last Samurai, these Phoenix Guard is something you don't see very often with orcs, is them shooting into shooting into enemies. But you can see we're just trying to escape Alariel. I don't want to get my Savage Orcs caught, but we do get nasty Skulkers in there. They're going to slow down the Keepers of the Flame and buy me some time. So saving these Savage Orc Arrer boys, allowing them to fight clear. And you can see these signs, now that they're stuck, are going to start getting withered down, or start falling apart to that withering fire from the archers. Especially at this short range. You can see Black Orcs are now coming in. The Arrer boys with their 6 AP are going to do rather well. Obviously it would help if I had something else, but I don't. We are getting Nichi Nuisance here. You can see Black Orcs piling in. Perhaps a sneaky stabbing would have been better, but it is what it is. Actually, did it get cancelled? That's a little odd. You can see the Night Goblin Shaman here getting annihilated by Alariel. I think actually the sneaky stabbing went down these Black Orcs over here. And the Night Goblin Shaman just gets wrecked. He's dead. So at this point I have no leadership. The Sons of Mathlin do get wrapped actually, which is a big win for me. The Goblin Wolf Riders can rout him off. But the balance of power, you can see it's way more red than green, unfortunately, and that's wrong, or yellow I guess, but it's way more red than good for me. You can see a rear charge here coming into the back of my Black Orcs, who are just not going to be able to hold up. You can see they're exploding. The problem is that these Keepers of the Flame in such close quarters are just being exploded, and they're causing me harm when they die. The Savage Orc Arrer boys, though, diving in, doing a good job. This is where they come into their element. This is a game where I was absolutely thankful that I'd brought Savage Orc Arrer boys. I had when I started, when I was loading in, or when I was deciding what unit to bring, I was sorely tempted to bring a Goblin Fireling line, or at least have the Rusty Arrows. And I decided, nah, I'll do Savage Orc Arrer boys. I'll try to make them work. I've had good experiences with them. And here they're saving grace. They're out of ammo, and they are trashing these Keepers of the Flame. Not well. It's not going amazingly well, but you know what? These guys are doing work. They're able to start bringing these guys low, and you can see just these guys are getting chipped down. It'll take a while. It's not going to be super cost efficient. My opponent's going to use an Earthblood here to try to keep him alive, and Savage Orc's not really able to get too much damage through, or going to struggle, but they're holding the Phoenix Guard. Savage Orcs are holding Phoenix Guard. That's all there is to say. You can see some Black Orcs rally, and they're going to be able to get into the back of these Keepers of the Flame. With that rear charge penalty, these guys will start crumbling incredibly quickly. You can see they are exploding and dying, and yeah, not good for them. So a big win for me. You can see the Keepers of the Flame just not doing well. The Savage Orcs big guns here do come in, and we surround Alariel. So you can see the balance of power, though, hugely in my opponent's favor, but now I can start chasing these Keepers of the Flame off the field. The Arrer boys, I use them because they're faster and because they are less useful in that fight down there than the Black Orcs would be. And they're just chasing these guys off. Nonetheless, the balance of power pretty decisively in my opponent's favor. With units wavering and routing constantly. You can see Alariel, these annoying animations is definitely a bit of a pain in the rear where the eagle flies around. But now with the Wolf Riders in there, she has a hard time. My opponent is trying to force path away, but he can't. And this is going to be one of the most atrocious nail-biting battles I've ever had. You can see these guys all wavering, all on the edge of defeat, except this one unit of Savage Orc Arrer boys. We're going to throw things into fast forward, and we come so close to defeat. You can see Alariel here beating these guys down. She does have decent melee stats on the eagle, just trading blow for blow. But the Goblin Wolf Riders don't break. They barely hang on. They're barely clinging to dear life. You can see the Savage Orc Arrer boys in there beating down Alariel. They're probably doing most of the damage, honestly, but with Frenzy wearing off, things are definitely looking a little grim. My opponent makes a little bit of a mistake here. He tries to flee. He can't flee. The Goblin Wolf Riders are just too fast. Plus, even if he can take to the air, it doesn't really matter too much because at this point, at this stage of the game, my opponent no longer has ground units. So with no ground, Alariel has to stay on the fight. She has to fight. With the Wolf Riders keeping her pinned, and the fact that my opponent wasted time that he could have been fighting, fleeing, I am able to swing the tide in my favor. You can see the Savage Orc Arrer boys here just swinging their choppas. Just look at this Goblin Wolf Rider, this huge eagle in there. These guys are chopping at it. Alariel in there just bathed in blood. Oh my goodness. And just chopping down these Savage Orcs. See the Savage Orc Arrer boys up to 2 chevrons, almost 3 in a single game. But they're chopping her down. They're getting her good. She is floating around. She's doing a little bit of damage, but really it's not gonna. In the long run, it's not gonna matter. There's too many orcs at this point. The green tide will hold. The Goblin Wolf Riders do finally rout, but with so many Savage Orc Arrer boys in the fight, there, she's not gonna be able to hold it, and she is going to rout. So the fair elven lady gets trashed by a bunch of filthy orcs in the end. So it's a pretty strong. This just shows what it's like fighting these high elf builds. They basically were unbreakable. Almost all of these units were killed to man. Granted, the Dragon Princes routed and got killed on the retreat, but most of these units basically fought to the last man. It's absolutely brutal stuff. The Greenskins, of course, were routing. They took some much more serious punishment. You can see both of the Nasty Skulkers shattered, having taken barely more than half casualties. Major value out of the Goblin Wolf Riders, just running units down. They did a good mop-up group. The Savage Orc Air Boys got massive value. They won me the game. And I've gotten a whole new appreciation for these guys. Before it was iffy, but honestly, with their decent AP and their passable melee stats, they carried this game for me. They tore through the Dragon Princes, they tore into the Phoenix Guard, and then they ultimately took on Alariel in close quarters. If it was a Goblin firing line, I would have lost that game decisively. No doubt about it. So it was crazy, and it definitely shows the power of the Savage Orc Air Boys. Otherwise, some big mistakes with my use of the Savage Orc Big Guns. Honestly, I shouldn't have even tried to put them in against the Keepers of the Flame. I maybe should have even done a switcheroo with the Black Orcs. Huge value from Nasty Skulkers and showing out my opponent's cav. Night Goblin Shaman got good value too, just debuffing my opponent's troops. Grimgor didn't get the greatest use out of his first wall, which sucked, but we tried. This is one of the big problems with fighting High Elves, is that with Alariel coming in and with Arcane Unforging, they'll often reset your walls meter, and that's a pretty powerful, annoying, and a very annoying mechanic to deal with. Regardless, getting into my opponent, Burning Apollo here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found this fight to the finish with Savage Orc Air Boys suitably appealing. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticisms, anything like that, be sure to share them, and I'll respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.